This time I entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number O-2011-03.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Questions? Roll call.
Derek.
Yay.
Todd.
Yay.
Renee.
Yay.
Tim.
Yay.
Bob.
Yay.
Chuck.
Yay.
Ordinance number O-2011-03 is adopted. Next ordinance is ordinance number O-2011-04, an ordinance to authorize the village fiscal officer to contribute funds to the health savings accounts of full-time employees who receive medical/hospitalization insurance from the village and declaring an emergency. This time I entertain a motion to suspend the rules for 3 readings on 3 dates.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Questions? Roll call.
Derek. Todd.
Yay.
Renee.
Yay.
Tim.
Yay.
Bob.
Yay.
Chuck.
Yay.
Was this an adoption thing?
Yes.
That was suspend.
That was suspending, right?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay. So we completed our votes? I got distracted, I'm sorry. So at this time, I'm going to entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number O-2011-04.
I make a motion.
Second.
Discussion? Questions? Roll call.
Derek.
Yay.
Todd.
Yay.
Renee.
Yay.
Tim.
Yay.
Bob.
Yay.
Chuck.
Yay.
Ordinance number O-2011-04 is adopted. Next item on tonight's agenda is a report from the fiscal officer. Don't jump in.
Okay. My report's very short tonight because for the last several weeks, most of my efforts have been concentrated on getting everything prepared to wrap up the year and roll into the new year. That being said, one thing I did want to review this evening, everybody has a 3-page report in front of them, and that is a condensed version of our cash summary by fund report. The top page is for 2010, middle page is for 2009, bottom page is for 2008. What it really boils down to, the first column is what the computer shows as our cash balance. The second column over shows any adjustments or transfers that were made into those funds, which would, in effect, adjust the starting balance. So the third column is the adjusted starting balance for the year, which is the actual column we should consider the starting balance. Fourth column is the revenues in each of those funds for the year. The fifth column is the expenditures. Sixth column is the ending balance at the end of each year. And the next column is whether each particular fund increased or decreased. And then since we talked about the 90-day reserve amount, I calculated what that would be, which is 25% of the revenues of each year. And then the last column shows where we're at in reference to that 90-day reserve. Obviously, if the number's in parentheses, that means we're below what we need, and then the dollar amounts are how much below. So in 2010, the good news is each of the funds increased for the year, some by more than others. Oh, and by the way, the 3 that most closely affect the public works, the last line where it says PW subtotals, that means public works, I actually added those funds together because all of the expenditures for those 3 funds are very similar. It doesn't really matter which fund they come out of, so I added them up so you can look at that one set of numbers across the bottom of that if you want, and that'll average all of them. So in 2010, each of the general fund increased $35,800. The police fund increased $10,600 approximately, and the public works funds increased $43,600. And then in the last column, it shows that the general fund is about $39,000 below where we need to be for the 90-day reserves. The police fund is about $93,000 below where it needs to be. And the public works funds is $22,000 over where it needs to be. And I also thought I would mention that because in the public works they receive less revenues than the other funds, so the percentages, seem to go up faster. in my opinion, you really need about a 50% carryover in the public works funds if you have the need to pave a road or buy a truck or something like that sizable. You can see the $22,000 carryover wouldn't actually go very far. So really you need a higher percentage in the public works funds. And then the notes to that are, so I took a look from 2008 to 2010, a 2-year span. The overall expenditures for those funds from 2008 to 2010, the villages reduced those expenditures $333,906 in the 2-year time frame, which I think is very considerable. And by the same token, the revenues for those funds in that same 2-year time period are down $190,942 from 2008. The village has made progress of almost $115,000 towards the 90-day cash reserves that we talk about. So those are the highlights of that report. I just thought it was good to share that information. And as I continue wrapping up the year and getting into the new year, I should have some additional information available. But there's a lot of work involved with wrapping up the year and getting in the new year. And I don't have all the numbers prepared yet, but I just thought that was some interesting information to review.
Good job.
That's all I have for this evening.
Any questions from the fiscal officer?
I just have a quick thing. Bill, have you gotten anything on the estate tax issues?
No, the last I heard was that from the state standpoint, it was tied with an income tax reduction that they postponed. I have not heard any more since then. And we if the village is going to receive something, we typically get a letter from the county treasurer about 6 months in advance of receiving any money, and we have no letters on file.
Okay.
So we don't have anything coming for 2011.
How about the threat of eliminating that in 2011?
It could happen if they implement that income tax reduction. It was supposed to happen in 2010.
The only reason I ask is there's a lot of governmental entities getting together and writing letters and doing a lot of basically lobbying about how difficult that would be.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any idea how much, just and roundabout, how much estate tax we generally get?
Just in the time frame that I've been here, we have gotten one check, and I'd have to look, but I want to say it was around $30,000.
I just wondered if council wanted to, get in on the lobbying effort for that, or at least send support that it does have some impact on our, because that goes in your general fund, so it's obviously a revenue source that you don't want eliminated from a governmental standpoint. I understand individuals would like it, but the issue is that if they don't replace that money with some sort of revenue stream, an income tax, or increasing the local government funds, which is not the intention, that can have a significant impact on basically the budgets of every single governmental entity. So
I think it'd be in the best interest of the village to at least get on board and have our voice heard.
I think the local municipal league, I think they were contacting jurisdictions to see if they had support. So if that comes up, and I think it's going to be coming up, wanted to get the feel of council as to whether we wanted to write a letter in support of that, or how council felt about that.
Did you say that if we don't get the money from that tax, it goes back to the state, or are they cutting the tax period?
The political word is they're going to cut the tax period. But what ultimately ends up happening is anybody's guess. But that is what the organizations that support the local governments, that's their fear. That's why they're trying to get letters of support and just information to the legislators as to how much of an impact that will have, as well as the local government funds. So I think we should probably plan on at least providing that information and supporting it if that's what council wants, but at least let the legislators know how much of an impact that will have on your general revenues.
Laura, I believe the compromise at the federal level, I think just within the last month, tied in with one of those other packages. They didn't kill it at the federal level like they said they were going to, but they significantly raised the exemption.
They did.
That was the compromise there.
Yeah, on the federal level.
Right.
Because both as a council member and personally, I'm all opposed to any kind of death tax. But I don't know how that, probably the minority in council on that.
Well, it's up to council. I just know that those requests will be coming in, so I thought you should make your determination as to whether you want to support that or whether you want to at least send factual information if it was requested, if that's the level of support the village wants to do. But I think some of the state's in a bind. I'm not trying to beat the state legislators any more than they need to, but the impact on local governments, I'm not sure that they completely understand from eliminating the local government funds and the estate tax. If that were to happen, numerous jurisdictions could not support their payroll.
So it wouldn't eliminate the estate tax, it would just change its distribution.
No, they're talking about eliminating the estate
Not
tax.
eliminating.
I believe if they eliminated the local government fund, I believe for Amelia Village, it represents about 30% of our general fund revenue. It would be nearly impossible to deal with. And I'm sure we're not alone in that. I'm sure that's probably across the board with everybody.
Yeah, it's devastating.
But that's the one thing we're talking about, is the death tax, right?
There's two separate things. There's the estate tax that we receive a portion of and the local government funds.
And of course,
And
the
there's a
local
possibility
government
both
fund,
will
but-
go away in 2008.
Okay. Then we should definitely help keep the local government fund going.
Anything else? Public input? Council input?
Must be something.
I have something. And it's something that occurred to me during the meeting, and it's something that I really need help understanding. And what I'm about to say is not intended to be by any stretch sarcastic or anything other than just a question. I just want to understand. I want to understand the thinking behind it. And it's really directed towards Chuck, and I mean this with no disrespect whatsoever, Chuck. You've demonstrated frequently, by way of your vote, your disapproval of approving ordinances on an emergency basis. And that makes perfect sense to me. And as I recall, the reason that is something that you're opposed to is because it doesn't allow the community an opportunity to be here to express their views on those ordinances. Am I correct?
That's part of it, yeah.
Okay. And this just occurred to me as we were speaking here. And maybe you can explain this to me. And again, I'm not trying to be sarcastic or demeaning or anything. I just want to try to understand it. If the thought process is I don't want to eliminate the citizens' opportunity to have input on these ordinances, on the votes, I don't understand the thought process in wanting to eliminate the potential for input by way of a planning commission.
Well, my main objective, and like I said, apparently this is what the information I got from you tonight is 180 degrees different than what I remember hearing in the past. My only main concern with planning commission is it has not met. And I would really like to, when I'm going to look up and go back to our previous minutes and look at them, because I know from the time I started attending council meetings, which is when that earnings tax came up, until now, that planning commission has not met